it's the beginning of 2020, so what better time to talk about 2019 and my top 10 worst movies for 2019. So this is going to be my personal distaste, ones that I personally didn't like. Although I may have said some positive things objectively in some of the reviews I've done, these are movies that I just don't like on a personal level. Now, I don't go to the cinema as much as a lot of people, so mostly my films are going to be independent ones. And we'll start off in descending order with number 10, and this is Mask of Thorn, which was a low-budget slasher movie that tries to kind of take elements from the Terminator. It is just so poorly done. It's a very amateur effort with appalling acting, a terrible-looking villain. I actually think it's a sequel to another movie, but really it's just not worth your time. Number 9 is The Evil Down the Street, and this is just a silly possession movie. The plot-wise, it's relatively kind of humdrum in regards to there's a family member that gets kind of possessed by a demonic entity. However, the title of the movie is The Evil Down the Street, but this demon really isn't evil. It just wants to kind of be lazy and kind of lounge around. And this is the kind of the most threatening thing this thing does. The worst thing this demon does in this woman's body, I think, is sleep with a neighbour. But it really doesn't do anything evil as such. It's just kind of lazy and a little bit unlikable, and therefore it's kind of just a ridiculous horror movie because there's no real evil here. I think this may have been a religious movie, but yeah, as a film, it's just a little bit stupid because it's kind of the most lightweight kind of possession film you've ever seen. Number 8 is The Dead Don't Die, which, to be honest with you, is probably one of the two more high-profile movies I have on this movie. And this was a zombie film with Jim Jarmusch directing it, and has a pretty much an all-star cast, but it's just meaningless dribble. It tries to be a kind of a an art house zombie movie. It's just uninteresting. It doesn't really there's no real direction in where this movie is going. There's a lack of story. The jokes aren't funny. Even Bill Murray can't save this one, unfortunately. Number 7 is Between Worlds. That although it's a kind of a low budget straight to DVD movie, it does have a at least a one-time Hollywood A-lister in Nicolas Cage, and this is a kind of a paranormal drama with Nicolas Cage, who plays this kind of like drifter, and it's just an excuse for Nicolas Cage to kind of get naked with a variety of different women. It's just a really unpleasant movie with just Nicolas Cage just acting really sleazy without a lot of kind of plot, to be honest with you. And he's such an unlikable character in it. Just an all-round kind of nasty movie. Number 6 is Scrawl. Now, this one was actually made a few years ago, but it hasn't been released until now. And this one stars Daisy Ridley. Yes, that Daisy Ridley from Star Wars fame. This was a film that she made before Star Wars, but it's only just got a kind of a wide release. And it's a low-budget British kind of fantasy horror. The plot is that this kid can he's drawing a comic and these kind of creations come to life. It's just so shoddily put together. The story is completely nonsensical. The kind of the narrative structure is terrible. The acting is terrible, including Daisy Ridley. All around, just a very kind of amateur, poor effort. Number 5 is The Haunting of La Llorona, not The Curse of La Llorona. This is a low-budget mockbuster of a kind of already a movie which was kind of getting a bit of kicking, critically speaking. So you can imagine this one is just some cheap, shitty kind of like rubbish effects. I mean, there's no scares here. The actual the woman in white that this movie has, it just looks like this kind of slightly overweight Mexican woman in a wedding dress. It's really ridiculous, to be honest. Number 4 is Pentagram, which when you hear the premise, it sounds pretty interesting, but it's ultimately quite boring. So we have a group of people who are going to this kind of building and are trapped within this kind of like this pentagram because it has sort of demonic powers. But that's really about all that happens, to be honest. I mean, there's no real plot outside of that, and it really takes place in one room. And you can get movies that do work in a single location, but this isn't one of them because there's no kind of drama, there's no tension, there's no good acting here. Number 3 is Stuba, which I suppose is the kind of the other more high-profile movie. And I know people like this movie, but God, this was torturous to sit through. I didn't bother doing a review on it on the channel, to be honest with you, but I just didn't like it. I thought Dave Bautista and I forgot the guy's name, the Indian guy who plays the Uber driver. There was just no chemistry. I didn't think the jokes worked. The storyline was just pathetic, and I just didn't buy any of the kind of decisions here, and I just didn't believe the world that they were in, and that these kind of comedies are obviously somewhat of a heightened reality, but this one just took just a silly premise that this kind of detective taking this civilian out on these kind of dangerous missions and stuff, and yeah, I didn't think it worked at all, to be honest with you. Number 2, Bride of Scarecrow. It's a very poor, and there's just no kind of tension in it. There's no real thought put behind it. It was just kind of hastily kind of put together in a very kind of short amount of time, just to kind of get a movie out without any real thought into it, unfortunately. So it comes across as pretty bad. She's actually done a few movies that are to do with scarecrows, and this is the worst out of all of them, I think. But number 1, by far and away, far away, is Amityville Mount Misery Road. This movie is zero budget, just kind of cashing on the Amityville name because it's a public domain, because it's an actual place. So it's just bung this on here. It's about these this middle-aged kind of guy who has got this young Eastern European wife in real life, and has probably told her he's going to make her a movie star, and made this shitty movie where they literally just go walking through the woods where you see nothing happens, and it's just him kind of ogling this kind of his young girlfriend with a camera. It is terrible, and I have seen a few people kind of try to collect all the Amityville movies. Honestly, this one needs to be seen to be believed. Now, the additional thing I would say about this movie, if you check out my review for it, it's quite hilarious if you read the comments, because there's clearly friends of the filmmakers that are trying to really kind of, saying I don't know what I'm talking about and try and big up the film. It's quite funny. The comments in my review of this movie is more entertaining than anything in the actual film. So that's my top 10 worst list. Probably a lot of films there I would imagine not a lot of people have heard of. Like I've said, I don't deliberately go and watch films at the cinema that I know I'm not going to like, so there's probably plenty of bad movies that I haven't seen that are kind of the higher budget ones, but I tend to get sense grids and I have no idea what they are. Whilst I'm not actively going to go and pay to watch a movie that I know I'm not going to like. So there's probably plenty of higher budget stuff that is bad that I just haven't seen, because I don't get press passes to cinema. I only get kind of screeners for kind of straight to video stuff. So there you go. That is my top 10 worst. Have you seen any of these movies, and did you disagree with me? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.